Welcome, y'all, to the Osage County, Oklahoma podcast. We promise to keep it entertaining, and we guarantee the smiles are always free. I'm your host, Kelly Bland, and I can't wait for you to meet the guest we have today. Let's get started. Are you ready to do a podcast, Bob?
I am ready.
All right, welcome everyone. This is Kelly Bland with Osage County Tourism, and this is the Osage in It podcast, and it is my pleasure to be sitting out here with Mr. Bob Fraser out here at Woolaroc. Welcome, Bob. So thankful you could join me today.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you, and what a beautiful place to visit with you.
Oh, I know. We're sitting out here on the screened-in porch of the lodge. So let's start this off just a little bit. Woolaroc. It's got some history out here. You're the king of the history out here. Why don't you start off by telling everyone how it got its name and a little bit about the history of Woolaroc?
Well, there's a whole lot of history at Woolaroc. The name itself comes from the words woods, lakes, and rocks. We've got a whole lot of all three of those things out here, so the name fits perfectly. It started, Mr. Phillips built the lodge home. That was the first part of the whole development. Back in 1925. The reason he built it was because back in the early 20s, Mr. Phillips was spending about half his time here in the Bartlesville office and half his time in New York City. And he was being entertained constantly in New York City. And he wanted to be able to reciprocate. So he and Jane, his wife, spent about a year and a half looking out on the East Coast, Connecticut, Long Island, different places for existing homes or a place to build a home so that they could entertain people. He didn't find anything to his liking. He didn't find anything that fit him. He owned this property. He knew about this property, and he decided to build his lodge home here. It was absolutely a stroke of genius because over the next 20 years, they entertained so many people. And he built it for business. He built it for business entertainment. And he often said if he could get a man to Woolaroc, he could sign any deal. And he signed a lot of deals here at Woolaroc. But you think about it, even in the 20s and the 30s, he was bringing people here from the West Coast, from the East Coast, some from overseas, and they were seeing something they had never seen before. I mean, this was the Wild West. And he played it up. I mean, he would do things like fake a robbery at the front gate and have guys on horseback get them out of their cars and rob them of their wallets and everything else. So, I mean, he played it for all it was worth, but it was a very successful venture for him. And so it, and in that vein, I don't think there's anything I enjoy more than today. ConocoPhillips or Phillips 66, they'll host a dinner party out here. They'll have their clients that are in from the West Coast or East Coast or overseas. We'll have cocktails in the living room and then retire to the dining room for a dinner. And I sit there and watch it and I think, it's been 90 years and the purpose of this has not changed at all. Same things going on. Deals are still being made.
Amazing.
Mr. Phillips would definitely have a smile on his face.
Well, and it's my treat today to be sitting here at the lodge with you out on the screened-in porch. One of the times that Bob gave me a tour here, not only did we see Jane's bedroom, which has pictures of famous people from all walks of life in there, but there's a card above the front doors. I think it's maybe the Queen of Spades up there.
Yes.
How'd that card get there, Bob?
Well, you're back in the 20s and 30s. There was a world-famous magician, and he was sort of the David Copperfield of his time. And Mr. Phillips hosted a big party out here, and he invited the magician to come out and entertain the guests, and he did all evening long. And at the very end of the evening, he announced he had one final trick. And he was standing right by the front doors, and he invited Mrs. Phillips to come forward, and she did. And he reached into his coat pocket, and he pulled out a brand new deck of cards, and it had never been unwrapped. And so he unwraps it, takes the jokers out of it, shuffles it, fans them out to Mrs. Phillips, and says, "Draw a card." She does, and he says, "Show it to the crowd." And it's the Queen of Spades. And she shows it to everybody. He says, "Put it back in the deck." She puts it back in the deck. He shuffles, and then he twirls around and hurls that entire deck of cards against the wall above the door, and the Queen of Spades stuck right there above the door, and it's still right there right now. So
oh my goodness, that's an amazing story.
I call that the magic of Woolaroc, so it's perfect.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the museum. You've got 50,000 square feet of amazing in there. Tell our listeners about that.
Best thing to know about the museum is it came as an afterthought. And he didn't come out here and build the lodge home with the idea of, I'm going to build a museum. He built this in 25, and in 1928, he sponsored an airplane that entered the Dole Pineapple Race that flew from San Francisco to Hawaii. It had never been done before. There were 9 planes in the race, and he named that plane the Woolaroc, and the Woolaroc won the race. Only 2 planes even finished the race. Several people died in the process. So after the plane wins, it barnstorms the country for about a year or so, advertising aviation fuel, and then it comes back here. Well, he's got to put it someplace. And so he tells his ranch hands, build him a hangar up there on the hillside. So they build him a hangar out of sandstone, because that's what we've got plenty of. And that is the first room of the museum.
Wow.
So if you walk in the dome room, that was the last room built during their lifetime. They built that in 47. But you walk into the dome room and turn to the right. That first room you walk into, that's the hangar. And so he put the airplane in there. And then he was starting to collect more and more art, pottery, bronzes, etc., Native American blankets. And as he was collecting it, he was putting it in the hangar up there. And before long, he didn't have enough room. And so he added on another room, and he kept pushing that airplane further back, further back, further back. By the time we're through, we got 50,000 square feet. So it's an incredible, incredible collection. Christie's of New York, we've had the opportunity to have them here several times, and we've got a great relationship, and they're dear friends. They estimate the value of the whole collection to be somewhere around $300 to $500 million.
Oh my goodness!
So it's people say it's a really nice collection. It's a lot more than that. It's a lot more. It's really, truly one of the finest collections in the world of Southwest art.
Well, everything at Woolaroc is truly world class. I have never spoken to a single visitor out here that wasn't just amazed and impressed with their jaw dropping. And so y'all got some plans coming up in the future. Tell us about that.
Well, across from the museum sits the Heritage Center. And the Heritage Center, going back a little bit further, the south end of that Heritage Center is the Frank Phillips' horse barn. He built that in 1926, kept his horses there, rode horses out here constantly. So in 1970, they added on to it, added a theater, and it became the Y Indian Guide Center. And it was really well used for a period of time, especially in the 70s. But since then, the use has declined a lot. Our theater, which was okay in 1970 before there was an ADA, became very difficult because you go in and you had to go downstairs to enter the seating, and it was just not very appropriate. So we've spent almost 5 years trying to decide exactly what do we want to create out of that building. The one thing I wanted to do was build a welcome center, a place that you could actually arrive at Woolaroc, find out the story, find out where I need to go next. That building seemed like the perfect spot for me. And so we worked on plans after plans, and we are so excited about what we're doing because we're completely gutting the interior. We're returning that horse barn back to the horse barn.
Oh, wow. That'll be
and
neat.
it's just going to be tremendous. We'll have tack gear up, we'll have saddles, we'll have Native American blankets hanging, and it'll be a gathering space. Picture just big leather sofas and chairs, a couple little theater areas where 4 or 5 people can watch a film about Woolaroc, and then what used to be the theater will be leveled, and so it's the same height as the main building, and we're moving the buffalo haunt inside there. So we'll have a cafe inside the building, so we don't have to worry about weather. It'll seat about 56 people. We're going to open up the walls, so as you're sitting there, you have one view of the front of the museum. The other side, you'll be looking out on the walking trails.
Nice.
The dome will still be above you, and I think it's just going to be a little bit of fantastic.
Well, it looked fantastic when you sent me the plans the other day. That's amazing.
We're really fired up about it. So,
and estimated time to complete, when's it?
The builder says April 1, so I'm saying May 1.
Okay.
Just to be on the safe side. But they're up there working away, have been every day the last 2 weeks, and so that's really neat. And even though it doesn't sound very exciting, we're also adding a lot of restrooms inside there. So we have so many kids that come on buses. First place they want to go is the restroom, and so that means they go to the museum. We really would rather have them elsewhere to take care of that. So that'll do that. And with a little bit of a teaser, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we've got another major announcement to make in addition to the Welcome Center. So we'll save that for the next podcast.
Okay. Hey. All right, so Woolaroc is known for their art event. You're known for doing Kids Fest, but you've got a signature event out here that I get to come to this September called Cow Thieves and Outlaws.
Yes.
Give us a little info and backstory on that one.
That is the epitome of Frank Phillips. It started in 1927. It's exactly what the name says, Cow Thieves and Outlaws Reunion. He invited the business people of the area, law enforcement, Native American Indians, and Frank knew a lot of the outlaws in this part of the country, and he invited them, and they came. And he had 2 rules at the party. One was that everybody had to check their guns at the front gate, and the second one was that they had amnesty for 24 hours. And so we actually have pictures of the sheriff with his arm around the bank robber that he'd been chasing for 2 or 3 months, and
oh my goodness.
And he couldn't do a thing about it. And they gave them a certain amount of time to flee after the party before the chase could start again. So they did that for a lot of years.
That's brokering a deal right there.
That is brokering a deal,
yeah.
And only Frank could do that.
We could use a little of Frank today.
Oh, we could use a lot of Frank today, yes. But so we kicked that party back into high gear about 15 years ago, and I'm extremely biased, but I think it's the best party in the state of Oklahoma. We'll have close to 1,000 people. We have a couple bands. We have 4 restaurants. We have a fireworks show that is second to none, and we got our fair share of outlaws still. So we like to keep it real.
That's probably how I got invited.
No. So it's September 26th. Down at Clyde Lake, and we're excited and ready to go.
Well, I'm excited to get to come.
Absolutely.
Another thing, I want to commend you. I wrote an article and called you top hand in it.
I saw that, yes.
But you did Storytime with Bob. You told a lot of history on Woolaroc on your Facebook page during the time of the pandemic when everything was kind of shut down. Those were amazing. You've got this iconic voice. Y'all going to keep those up? Are they on your website anywhere? Is there a place where people could go click on those and hear those?
We need to put them on the website. I don't think we've done that yet. Remind me to tell Casey to make sure she does that.
Okay.
But we are going to continue to do them. Maybe not as often as we did during that period of time, but the feedback that we've had from people has really surprised us. It's been so positive, and we've enjoyed doing it. And we tried to show every little hidden secret that people maybe don't get to see on a regular basis. But it's been fun, and we read some children's books to the kids and to mom and dads probably. But it has been very enjoyable. It's been a very, very difficult time for everybody. And it's going to continue for a while. But we were able, we're blessed by the fact that we got 3,700 acres out here. We're in the wide open spaces. And we at least were able to take this time and try to do something positive out of it. Even when we were closed to the public, we opened up on some Wednesdays just for a free drive-through. You couldn't even get out of the car. People were begging to use the restroom. I'm sorry, you can't. You cannot get out. But the biggest crowd we had ever had at Woolaroc in a single day was 4,200 people. The first Wednesday we opened it up for the free drive-through, we had 8,100 guests out here.
I saw pictures of that. It backed up down the highway, people waiting to get in.
It was unbelievable. And if you want to have some faith in mankind,
there you go.
We had people backed up halfway to Bartlesville, halfway to Barnstall. 4 highway patrolmen on their own. We didn't call them. They came. They helped guide traffic, stop traffic, move traffic. We had people that were scared, frustrated, maybe had lost their jobs, had an opportunity for a free drive-through. They donated $7,500 to Woolaroc on that day.
Oh, my gosh.
Unbelievable.
Oh, my word.
Unbelievable. And so it was talk about a win-win thing. I mean, it was helpful, we think, to the public, obviously. But what it did for us. I mean, it was just such a neat feeling to be able to feel like you reached out and touched people in that manner. So we were lucky. And people say all the time, "Gosh, you got the best job in the world," and all this. Look at what I got to work with.
I know.
I mean, it's a little piece of heaven out here.
Yeah,
so
it is.
it makes it easy sometimes to do those kind of things.
I feel the same way about marketing Osage County to tourism. It's like it's easy to sell ice cream.
Exactly. Yes. Amen. You're right.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know if you can answer it or not, but I know as a CEO out here, you have access to some different things that the public doesn't get to see a lot. What's one of your favorite things out here that maybe not everyone knows about?
Well, let's see. Gosh, there's still several of them. Just going outside the main grounds of the ranch, we've got 9 or 10 good-sized lakes that are out here, and being able to drive around those, that's enjoyable. Spending some quiet time over at the mausoleum, where Frank and Jane were laid to rest. You go inside that, and it is absolutely amazing. Just built in a hillside. 24-inch concrete walls, Italian marble, and tile throughout it, heating and air conditioned, telephone inside.
Oh
I mean,
what's the phone for?
I think Frank just thought maybe there could be business later, but it's an incredible place, and for several years it was open to the public. It hasn't been now for about 20 years, but we don't open it to the public because Mr. Phillips, one thing about him is that he left really good instructions for anything that he wanted done. He made it very clear what he wanted, and he's intentionally built that mausoleum to where it's right where he wanted it to be, and it was far enough away from the public. I don't think he ever had any intention of the public walking through his mausoleum. Right. And so we maintain it. We keep it clean. When the family comes to town from time to time, we always are available to obviously take them through there. But that's a special place. And heck, I'm such a nut about things. I can go down to the basement underneath the museum and have a field day just because there's old stuff that's been down there for 90 years, 100 years, and just. You talk about going down rabbit holes. It's like, what'd you get accomplished today? Nothing. I haven't. I've been sitting in the basement just going through these boxes. So,
neat.
And you were talking about Jane's bedroom earlier, and she's got hundreds and hundreds of photographs on the wall, and that's the way it was when she lived here. And those were people that she liked that stayed here, and if she liked you well enough, she asked you to send her back a photograph, and. If you fell out of favor with Jane, your picture could come down off the wall. And about 9 or 10 years ago, we found in storage a box that had those that had come down. And we put them right back where we found them because there were several people that still have Bartlesville connections. And I didn't want people to find out that grandfather was not wall worthy. So we just put them right back where we found them. But yeah, there's just, every place you turn around, there's just incredible history. I describe the lodge primarily and the heyday of when Frank and Jane were entertaining out here. It was literally the Great Gatsby of the Midwest.
I've seen Will Rogers' picture.
Yeah. And Will Rogers was here so often, he would entertain when Frank and Jane were gone.
He just made himself at home.
Yeah, he'd be the host when he would be out here. So it was a who's who of business, of sports, of entertainment. Presidents, yep. Harry Truman, he was a senator at the time. Herbert Hoover was here. Elliott Roosevelt, son of Franklin Roosevelt, was a guest here many, many times. John Ringling North, Harry Sinclair, J. Paul Getty, John Rockefeller. I mean, it goes on and on.
Well, and
on
even
and on.
today, Woolaroc attracts people from leadership like the lieutenant governor,
Yeah,
and things
exactly.
like that. Yeah.
And the movies that we've had lately, we had Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner when they were still married with their kids. We had a private dinner for them in the lodge. And so we've had Julia Roberts here. We've had lots of them. So it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And when they throw a party out here, you definitely want to be on the guest list. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, you want to be on the A list for that one. That's absolutely for sure. Yep.
Kind of wall-worthy and
yes,
words.
Absolutely wall-worthy. You're wall-worthy.
Yeah,
see?
thank you.
There you go. There you go.
Well, out here at Woolaroc, they have a petting zoo in addition to the museum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also an event venue where weddings can take place.
Right.
And so I just want to encourage you, when you are in Osage County or close, you want to put Woolaroc on your list of places to come for a visit. Bob, why don't you tell them how to get in contact with you, where to find information about?
You betcha. Our website is www.woolaroc.org. And you can contact us at 918-336-0307. We're on State Highway 123, halfway between Bartlesville and Barnsdall. And I tell people all the time, whatever you do, don't try to find us with a GPS system. I guarantee you're going to get lost. So we have people call us from the strangest places and saying, I thought we were here. I said, no, you're not close. But we would love to have you. This time of year during the summer, we're open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 5. And come out anytime. We'd love to see you.
All right. Well, Bob, thanks for being with me today. I've enjoyed it. You're a pleasure always.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Well, this is Kelly Bland signing off for Osage in It. Y'all come see us in Osage County. Check us out online at visittheosage.com or download our handy-dandy Visit the Osage app, and y'all come see us where the smiles are always free. There we go.